Today, we're going to be talking about types of communities. To know exactly what that means and what you'll be learning, today we're going to learn about types of communities. To find out exactly what that means, you need to know what the word community means. Now, I know you've heard it every week when we recite our mission and say that we here at RCAA strive to build a compassionate community. Well, let's unpack that a little more and find out what that means. So, if you look up community in the dictionary, you'll see that it means a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Now, here at RCAA, we have some characteristics in common. We work hard to achieve our goals. We show teamwork and respect to each other. We show grit when we're faced with challenges. These are characteristics we hold in common. Now, we're also going to be talking about that other definition, a group of people living in the same place. That's really what we're going to be talking about today. Now, an example of that is New Orleans. New Orleans is just really a group of people living in the same place and all the buildings and roads that they built to take care of themselves. Now, the first type of community that we're going to talk about is an urban community. Urban communities have buses, subways, big buildings, many people, many stores, many different things. This is a picture of New Orleans. New Orleans is an example of an urban community. But New Orleans isn't the only urban community. There are actually many other examples. So, Paris, France, in Europe, is an example of an urban community. Let's see. Also, no, wait. How did this get in? This is not an urban community. I don't see buses. I don't see subways. I don't see many people, many stores. This is not an urban community. This is a bad example. No, not an urban community. Brooklyn, New York. Much better example of an urban community. Brooklyn, New York. Many people, many stores, many big buildings. Today we're going to be talking about types of communities. So to understand exactly what that means and what you're going to be learning today, you need to know exactly what the word community means. So you hear community every week when we recite our mission, and we say that we strive to be a compassionate community here at RCAA. Well, community, if you look it up in the dictionary, is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. So here at RCAA, we have particular characteristics in common, like we work hard to achieve our goals, we show each other respect and teamwork, and we show grit when we face challenges. Those are characteristics that we hold in common. But a community is also a group of people living in the same place. So that's the type of community that we're going to be talking about today. An example of that is here in New Orleans. We're really just a group of people living in the same place. Now, there's a lot of buildings and a lot of cars and roads, but it's really just a group of people and all the things that they need to take care of themselves. The first type of community is exactly what New Orleans is. It's an urban community. In an urban community, you'll find buses, subways, big buildings, many people, many stores. That's what you're going to find in an urban community. Now, we're not the only place with urban communities. Paris, France is an example of an urban community, and it's all the way across the ocean. More examples of urban... Wait a minute, this is not an urban community. No subways, no buses, no big buildings, no big stores. This is not an urban community. Bad example, not an urban community. Brooklyn, New York, much better example of an urban community. Big buildings, many stores, many people, buses, subways. Let's take a look at this question here. Do urban areas have a small or large population? Remember, population means people. So do urban communities have a lot of people or a few people? What else do we see? How do people get around? We don't just see cars in urban communities. We see streetcars. We see buses. We see ways to carry big groups of people around, because remember, urban communities have big groups of people. The second type of community we're going to talk about are suburban communities. As you leave the urban community, there are people who want to get out of the city to places where they have a little more space. And that's where you're going to find suburban communities. They're out there at the edges around cities. In suburban communities, you can find homes, yards, and shopping. The homes aren't going to be as large as we would find in urban communities. Urban communities many times have apartments, big buildings with many homes. Suburban communities are going to have houses with yards because you have more room. Here's another example of a suburban community. Notice people are more spread out. There are less people in a suburban community than in an urban community. Last, we're going to talk about a rural community. So if you leave your urban community, then you pass your suburban community and keep going, you're going to find yourself in a rural community. That's out in the country. This is an example of a rural community. The things you'll find in rural communities are few people, farms, and open space. Now, this should give you most of the information that you need to complete your packet. On the backside of your packet, you're going to have to show how communities are in relation to each other. And there, I want you to learn that urban communities are like your core with lots of people. You see suburban communities on the outside of urban communities and rural areas in between the urban communities. All right, I want you to see how these communities look in relationship to each other. All right, we're going to talk more about urban communities in Louisiana next time. But for now, go ahead and finish your packet for practice. It's been fun.